Welcome, everybody. It is Sunday, May 24th. It is the day before Memorial Day, noon Pacific, 3 Eastern, or whatever time it happens to be where you are because you are watching us right now. It is time for Unlimited Wisdom's Master's Mind. This is where we get together, kind of wrap up the previous week, and get ready for the brand new week ahead of us. And that's what we do every Sunday, is we get together and just let the master's mind kind of flow through all of us. And so we are ready to get ready to go. We appreciate the fact that you are here with us on this Sunday. And without further ado, let's get started. Of course, the person who is behind our master's mind, our GPS to success, master of what is going on today. I like to think that because it is he whom we will hear from. He is our dear friend and our mentor and our GPS to success. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give it up for Mr. Robert Hollis.
Thank you, Craig. The hostess with the mostest. You are awesome. You rock. And so, hi, Dustin. Hi, Michael and Angela. Star, Melody, Shelley, Corky. Needs to see Corky a couple times in a day. And always makes my heart fill up. Sandy, Coach Bob, Arthur, Lisa Marie, and Matthew, and my lovely wife, Terry, over there. And hi, Deborah. I see you just jumped on. So today is the Hello Unlimited Wisdom family. So like Craig said, today's Master's Mind. And what Mastermind is always about is me constantly doing whatever I possibly can figure out to do to just build in that mystery of me and a connection to whatever that is, right? And so, one of the things that I keep saying to people all the time, because I don't think that you could ever say this enough, is when people try to understand anything. Me and Arthur are going back and forth this morning. It was pretty funny and great. And one of the things is both me and him we're agreeing, no matter what we're talking about, is that it's so wonderful to come from a place of humility and humble, where you can just say to yourself, I don't know. I just don't know. And yes, we can hear from a bunch of people, but me and Arthur are cracking up because how many things have been told to us that's disproven? Because when I was a little kid, I was told about Corky. And then he was coming down my chimney, and I needed to leave some milk and some cookies for him, and he was going to bring me some presents, but I had to make sure to put him on a list, right? And call him and mail it to him or whatever. And then all of a sudden, when you find out that some of these things that are not true, it's crazy. So one thing I want to share with you is being humble is not just about, understanding that you don't know. But it is another place, is that I still have stuff to learn. I still have stuff to learn. And where we see people have difficulties in life, hi Sarah, hi Jim, is when you run into a group of people, and I don't know about you guys, but because I connect with people all the time, I keep running into these people that know everything. And if you don't believe them, just ask them, right? So it's these people that know everything are the people that are really messing us up. And wouldn't that be a perfect shot of our politics at this time? You know what I mean? I was telling Arthur, and I was goofing around, and this is not a debate. I just want to say this statement that the UN, the United Nations, came out and said that right now, the focus on climate change is not the issue anymore. How many fights do you think there's been? How many people have said some really awful things to each other because the scientists, they all agree, all the scientists agree that this is a problem. So me and Arthur are laughing because we're not supposed to be here right now. When they first came out, and Al Gore that invented, the internet and the lockbox, when he came out, it was the year before this or this year, we're gone. If we don't do something to change it. And only reason I bring that up is not as a debate. It's that I told Arthur that when it comes to science, that was my strong part, engineer science, when I grew up in school. I'm naturally good at that. But people don't even know the definition of science. If you looked up the definition of science, it's not science says that this is true and it's true. Science in hypothesis, an educated guess, science is all about a group of people disproving something that you came up with. God, I wish the world would work like that for real. You know what I mean? So when someone made a claim, then immediately everybody went in to disprove it, not saying that it was true. Well, how many of you guys people know that they do this in religion as well? And so I was telling Arthur that you guys have heard me say this before, right? Is I can listen to somebody, really listen to somebody, and immediately tell if they're willing to learn or not. And here's why. When they're talking to you and the stuff that they're sharing with you is to prove their point by disproving something that everyone else is saying, that is not the definition of a listener. You see what I mean? So when you say anything and they come out and say, I don't like that, and here's why, and you do know this, you do know that, and this was proven, and da 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 da, you're finding, or you found a person that is just stuck in their ways. They're a right fighter. They will do everything in their power to win the argument. They're not interested in learning. On the other hand, when you hear somebody that's against something, when you hear people that are for something, they always seem to be moving ahead. And they'll always come from a place of, wow, I didn't know. I didn't know. I didn't know that. I didn't know that. When you share something with them, they're like, wow, I never thought of that. Wow, that's an interesting perspective. And so the first thing I would tell each and every one of you to do is find out words that bother you. Sarah, if you can move your camera a little bit, I love seeing your gorgeous face. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I always look at Sarah and I just see the top of her forehead, and I'm like going, that's not good enough for me. So thank you, Sarah. So one of the things I wanted to bring up with you guys today is, again, if you really think about things, write and get your own definition to a word. So when someone talks about love, what is your definition of that word? Not somebody else's, right? So I was talking with Matt about this, and, in previous videos, I talk about this concept of the spirit, right? And so we use that as far as faith is something to do with like Wi-Fi. The people don't know how it works, but when they're not connected, it's funny how fast they look for Wi-Fi. They need to know the username and the password. So if you think of spirit that way, the universe or whatever, I told you guys, and I'll talk about in a second, that I'm in the middle of season 5 on The Chosen. And I'll go crazy in a minute on that. But there's a scene that I talk about with Nicodemus that he explains to the Jewish Pharisee. He explains to him the difference between the logic and the thinking and the spirit. And so I was talking to Matt that I came up with something, for me, this is my explanation or my way of doing it. So what's the difference between the spirit and the soul? Right? So some of you don't need to be technical, but you'll get this, is that, so Wi-Fi or the internet, is wired to your home. That in this scenario could be like the spirit. But once it gets to your house, you have a thing called a modem. And every modem has its own unique address. Its own unique address, like a cell phone, like a computer, right? So that would be proclaiming your uniqueness, like your DNA. And so the modem, you got the internet, that's the spirit, and then it connects to you, the modem. And some of you put routers on it. Some of you have it hardwired to some computers. You have, all these devices that you have on it. See, if we went to every home from where the wire connects to the modem, every home is different. Would you guys agree that you could go to apartment to apartment to apartment or house to house to house, and from the time that it connects to a unique modem, because the modem has a lot to do with your carrier, which could be your religion, right? And so once you connect that to your internet, then we add all these things to it. And that makes it personal to each and every one of us. Is that clicking with you guys? So the modem can constantly be changed. The service or the religion or believing in science or therapy can change. The devices that you add to it, the amount of what do they call streaming services that you can have attached to it? See, that's all your uniqueness from the internet moving into your home. And that's your soul. You're designing it the way you want to. There's things that I loved and I was used to in the past that are no longer part of my life, because I'm constantly growing and learning and doing all this stuff. So when people say, I don't know what the difference is between the spirit and the soul, right? And then, of course, the body, which I would include the mind, would be your consciousness, right? And so you got what? You got your body, your spirit, your soul, and your mind. And everyone that tries to explain the mind is always going, consciousness, we're compared to unconsciousness. So we're all very aware that there is a part of our brain that makes our heart beat, us breathe. So there is a part of the brain that just sometimes is running stuff automatic, and that's another part. But I thought that I would share that with you guys first to understand that, the spirit is the same for me. The spirit is the same for everyone. But how they connect to it is a whole different thing. Did you guys catch that? It's like, so you walk into people's house and you go, listen, do you have Wi-Fi? And they go, no, I don't. Well, why don't you? Well, I have internet in the house, but I just have never cooked it up. Do you have a modem? I don't know if I have a modem. Is the modem Wi-Fi? I don't know. How many of you know people like this? It's like, they're void from even understanding how important the internet is or the spirit is. So I just thought I'd share that with you guys. I hope that blessed you. Me being into the, Craig will post some stuff on it, a couple of links. But now that I'm diving in more and more to the chosen, right? There's always a silly thought that I know that people have where they beat themselves up. I know none of you do this. But I have to keep knocking down the thought is, oh my God, this was released how many years ago? And so I was telling Matt that I seen a video. I went to a couple of their things to research, and there's this guy in 2017 that filmed like a pilot or something of the first or second episode. And so now he's shopping it because he wants to create the rest. And so he goes on the internet, and who knows where was promoting it or whatever, but people started watching it. And then he asked for a donation, and he got over 5 million views and over $5 million in money to do another episode. Are you guys following me? So It's like he didn't have money, but once people seen it and forwarded it to each other, they all started donating money, just like Obama with, getting $1 and $2 and $5, $10 things from social media for his campaign. And so then what I've seen since I've been watching this, me and Matt haven't talked about this, is now that I'm in the middle of the fifth series, it seems like the logo for the main thing that's making it, it continues to change. So it was a part of this angel network. And then all of a sudden I see loaves and bread. And then I see another one. I don't remember what it is. And now there's one that's 5-2. So the reason I'm bringing this up is as it makes more money and they want to do more things, how many people think that it's probably gone through a number of Matt would know the great word, so would Craig, which is similar to buying out. That all of a sudden someone sees something big, it's a great idea. You got a lot of followers, a lot of viewers. It's making money. So now a bigger studio,
You mean like selling out?
yeah, like
Close?
I
Yeah.
guess what Disney did to Pixar. You know what I mean? So
Producers and ideas, yeah.
yeah.
You mean killed the studio? No, I'm just kidding.
It's obviously
They still make
changed.
great stuff. I'm just being.
Yeah, so there's a lot of companies out there that are buying other companies because what they have is a IP, and I learned that word from Matt, but their intellectual property is to a place where they, Lucas Studios is not owned by Lucas anymore. Yeah, and they created Star Wars, right? So I say all this to see, it keeps growing. But a couple of things that I think is really amazing in watching this is if a person could just watch it uninterrupted,
Uninterrupted.
yeah, and focus on it, and like my mentor taught me to do this. It's a conscious decision, like everything else, is allow someone to train you, or in this position, expose you to something, and do it unjudgmental. Just take it all in. And then after you take it all in, then you get to take the pieces that you want for yourself in that time. So what people don't do, and they shouldn't do, is like you'll see in The Chosen, is that me and Craig were going back and forth about this, is, they have this giant temple in these cities where Jesus and the disciples are going to back and forth, right? Because they're Jews. They go to the temple. But the inside of the temple were all the, I brought this up before, I believe, that, I said Pharisees, you know what I mean? And Craig's like, what? That's like of Egypt. And so Craig looks, and there were Jewish Pharisees, right? But what I was explaining to Craig is as you go through the series, episode after episode, it's again, we know whisper down the lane, correct? You know what I mean? How many people know that information changes from person to person to person to person? But inside the synagogue, there was a group of people, and they all believed their own interpretation of the Torah. And they're in these massive arguments about they're all the same religion. Are you guys getting where I'm coming from? And then there was this group, and then this group, and then this group, and then this group. And so when one of the people that were the leader of this group brought up something, and they're all in the same room, and it's weird that I like a lot of the stuff that I'm learning from it, because one guy said, well, listen, do you have 3 eyewitnesses? And he goes, what's your point? It's the only point. Because people were saying what they seen Jesus do. And there's like a million, if not a trillion, different perspectives of people that seen that. So while it goes through Whisper Down the Rain and finally gets to someone that they complained about, they were like, listen, If this is what he did, how do we know he did it? Is it a hoax? And then if it is real, then we don't have any eyewitnesses. And so they're fighting. They're really mad at each other and fighting because, of course, you guys, if you know that the story of Jesus is, there's one group that immediately needs this guy assassinated as fast as possible. We got to get him out. But he's so popular and people love him, is now they're trying to trick the Romans into doing it. And you guys know the rest of the story. I'm not there yet. But they're like, all of them's going, well, if we got to get rid of him because he's telling people that they don't need us. That was their worry, right? So in the episode I watched last night is where he finally gets freaked out and he goes out into the front of the temple and he starts flipping all these tables over because these vendors were selling them, their animals to sacrifice. If they came from different places, there was a guy that was taking money, just turning currency from Greek currency into, Caesar's, currency. So there was even a thing brought up about that. It's like, why are we paying Caesar? And Jesus asked for a coin from somebody. And he grabs the coin and he says, this is what we need to buy something here, right? Why does it have Caesar's head on it? And then he asked anybody in the crowd if they knew what the words were on it. And the words on it was Caesar was basically saying that he's the king of the universe. It's like he's going, you guys are making big deals out of little things, but we're all walking around buying stuff with currency of the guy's head on the coin saying that he's the king. And you guys are after me? And it's like, but Jesus was upset because, whoever he believed that, the people that were leaders within the temple were allowing people to take advantage of them financially. So not only telling them if you're not a good Jew unless you sacrifice an animal, and then you sort of got to make up your mind if you're the guy that just sinned enough where you could use a pigeon, or if you needed to do a full cow. Depending, but not making fun of Judaism in this movie at all, because it just really makes you realize that people didn't understand. They didn't understand. So then you got the disciples that are hanging around Jesus, and they all have different personalities, upbringing, ecosystems, and all of them are misinterpreting what Jesus is saying. Duh. Is it possible that 12 people could be listening to a sermon and all leave there and people say, I didn't get nothing out of that one, and someone else said it changed my life? Sound like watching a movie or reading a book, or and that's really what I've got. The biggest thing out of it is it's pretty impossible for someone to believe in what they believe and then share it with somebody else if that person is not willing to learn, or if that person really doesn't know their true definitions on the word love. So one of the things that I did right away is I wrote down, I said, who is the most documented person outside of Bible, outside of, the Torah? Was it Caesar, was it Moses, or was it Jesus? And it came back to me in two different, Google and also AI, is Jesus is one of the most documented persons that ever walked this planet. So if he did do things that made people want to follow him, now what people do is take parts of what he did, their reading, their interpretation, and that's a way to be able to form a religion. That's what me and Arthur were talking about. So you can't have one belief, because then you have the whole different. But of course, I'm not a Jew or grew up in the Jewish religion, so I wasn't aware that there was this infighting inside that religion. which I've known that I always made the joke, and that there's Baptists, and then there's regular Baptists, and then there's premium Baptists, and then there's Southern Baptists. It's like, why is there so many different religions under each one? Easily, one person gets an ego. He's tired of being an assistant pastor. He has a different interpretation on maybe a verse or something that the other one said. And now it's time for division, and the Bible study turns into a small hotel meeting or a house meeting. Then it goes to, and now you got another church, right? Here's another church with another spin. But isn't that just what we sort of discussed with science? Because depending on the person that you follow, they're saying something else about what they believe science is. See, the one thing that people always do in their debates is they go, every scientist thinks the same way. You're just showing how uneducated you are. So over the years, for me to say, like Arthur and I was just giggling because he's 46. It's like, remember when acid rain was going to take us out? And I go, listen, go back to the 80s because we're out of oil. We're out of oil. There's no more oil. It's like someone lied to us. So each and every one of you, I think that, just to share and close out today, so you can get back to your Memorial Day weekend, is there was two things that I wanted to talk about. There's is again, ask yourself if you're asking. Ask yourself if you're asking, because the research that you should be looking for is the research that feels good to you, that can guide you. Right? So if you guys think that I'm religious, just that statement of what I said, which is a number of statements that Jesus said, and the chosen, that one statement right there, you could get a whole group of Christians wanting to take me out. Did you guys catch that? And it's like, so far, it's Jesus just basically getting people, is like, now it's getting close to the end for him. And he's basically telling people that, listen, there's only two commandments. Love yourself and love your neighbor. You guys all sitting around this last, table, the Last Supper, he goes, you guys got to love each other. You got to support each other. But you've seen up to that point that they all have different ways of interpreting what Jesus is doing. All through it, it's like Jesus will say something and they'll go like, well, that went over my head. I sure don't understand what the hell he meant by that. You know what I mean? And that's a lot of people, right? When you think about being an entrepreneur or some of the stuff that Matt's doing, it's like a lot of people feel. No, they don't feel. They think they need to understand. They think they need to understand. They think they need to understand. That's the total opposite of faith. Total opposite. When I connect to Wi-Fi, I 1000% believe that it's going to hook up and work. It's like I travel all over the world. I go into an airplane. I know how to get Wi-Fi on the airplane. I go into an airport. I know how to find the Wi-Fi for the airport. I get to the hotel. I know how to find the Wi-Fi for the hotel. Are you guys getting what I'm talking about? It's like I know how to connect. And so what a lot of people do is they do them. They're just people. They're just people. And so the last thing that I wanted to bring up is you guys that have been around me for a long, 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 long time, right? I always tell you that it blows my mind how someone can make a 10, 15-second commercial like Budweiser after 9/11, and I start to watch it and it just brings me to my knees. You know what I mean? So I get up this morning and I normally don't look on the internet at all before I get into my worship and get centered and whatever. And so when I first got on, I must have watched something on Twitter last before I shut the lid on the laptop. So Twitter was up. So when I opened it up, it refreshed, and there was that M&M's commercial with Kyle Busch. If you haven't seen it, I posted it on Unlimited Wisdom, but that brought me to my knees. I'm going, animated how can animated M&Ms with music looking into a reflection of water with Kyle Busch there and just mess me up? And I know that's the kind of stuff that Matt wants to do. It's like we start with posting pilots, start creating things like that will rock people's world, right? And one of the things I thought I'd share with you guys again, how many people know some people that can go down a rabbit hole way too far? You know what I mean? Here's a crazy one for you. Kobe Bryant was number 8. He was 41 years old when he died. Kyle Busch was number 8, and he was 41 when he died. Neither one of them were the GOAT. They were just both in the top 5. You know what I'm saying? And so, when I watched the Coca-Cola 600, but this has already happened because they had the Infinity race, but never in the history of a NASCAR driver. Can you imagine doing this for any kind of sport? All the guys that came in for the drivers meeting all had Kyle Busch t-shirts on and a hat. You know what I mean? And I'm going like, if you guys want to know what I dream about, I want to make that kind of impact on people. Because, he's number 8 overall, or number 7, number 8 overall for a number of wins that he's had. And when you hear about the respect of other drivers that talk about him, it's just on a totally different level. I keep forgetting, because now I'm hearing about his history, that he won NASCAR's Rookie of the Year when he was 20 years old. It's like, so all 3 combination of, NASCAR trucks, the Infinity Series and the Cup Series, which is the biggest, like 240 wins. I mean, Richard Petty had 200. And so I sent Craig a deal today because we share a little bit of racing, and it's just a mind-boggling when you hear someone like Tony Stewart talk about how great Kyle Busch was. You know what I mean? Or Jimmy Johnson, or Denny Hamlin. It's like these people are talking about him. Denny Hamlin said he would nowhere be where he is today if he didn't have to constantly drive behind Kyle Busch and see this. Watch the way he did these mile tracks. And Denny Hamlin says, we both race for the same team, Joe Gibbs Racing. He says, I don't have any championships. He's got 2. And he goes, we would put these chassis and motors together and take it out on the track. And that guy always ran faster than me. Same motor, same chassis, same manufacturer, same everything. Kyle Busch just could make a car go faster. And so everyone talked about the negative side of Kyle Busch because, that guy would take you to your knees. I loved how Joe Gibbs the owner, imagine saying this to the owner and the boss. So he says, "Oh my God, Kyle Busch is going to be in the press conference. So I better go over there because he's going to say something stupid." And Joe Gibbs said for the first time, he watched him do a perfect press conference. Was nice to the reporters, wasn't beating up any other drivers, just being good. And he said he walked off the stage and he looked at me directly in the eyes. And he walked right up to me and he goes, "Do you know how bad your cars suck?" And he says, "I've never had a driver in my life walk up to me say that to me." It's like, "Listen, I'll be nice with the press conference, but I'm going to take it out on you." And that's who he won his world championships with, is that owner. But that's the one kind of guy. So then the nice stuff that I'll leave you guys with is when he got married, it was like a switch went off in Kyle Busch. So now he found someone that he loved that basically was saying, "Dude, cut that crap out. You know what I mean? You don't need to do this. You don't need to do that." And then he had Brexton, his son, and a lot of people don't know this, but Samantha really had difficulty getting pregnant. So the amount of money that they spent to infiltrate, having difficulty
In
having a
vitro
child.
fertilization, IVF.
Yeah. And so they did multiple rounds, all kinds of stuff. And then they had Braxton. And Braxton is just a killer on the racetrack. This kid is like 11 or 12. I think he just turned 12. And this kid raced against his father on dirt tracks and little midget cars. So Braxton is going to be amazing. And so, like Dale Earnhardt, for those of you that know, when he died, they basically said, "Okay, we're going to retire his number." and then what happened was, now that Richard Childress Racing is where Dale Earnhardt drove for, and Kyle Busch drove for them. And to show you how competitive this guy was, he won a truck race last Saturday. It wasn't like he's 41 years old and he's washed up. You know what I mean? But they said that they're reserving, no one else can use the number 8 until his son gets to NASCAR. They just know that he's going to get there. And unfortunately, a number of really good race car drivers had their dads die early, including Dale Earnhardt Jr. So it's pretty interesting, because that really shook me, only for a reason that I shared it with you guys, is if you heard how he died last weekend, he came over the radio and he goes, "Man, my sinuses are just hurting so bad. Can you please get me a doctor? I want a doctor ready for me when I get done with this race." And probably a lot of us have done this, where you might start out with a head cold, and for whatever damn reason, you don't know if it's a flu or cold or sinus infection or what the hell it is. But then it got into the top of his lungs where he couldn't stop coughing. So then what we do is find everything that we possibly can do to stop our coughing. How many people know what I'm talking about, right? Listen, this cough is irritating. And he said, I guess he brought up one time to his wife that he had coughed up a little bit of blood. But it's like, I'm going to get over this. And so what he did is he put himself in a simulator, and he was practicing for this week's race. And his wife went to check up on him. He was unconscious, called 911, and they don't know when it happens, because they'll probably find through an autopsy, but he had really bad pneumonia, and somehow that poison infected his blood. And I guess once you get sepsis, it's like, it just shuts all your organs down. It's just like, so can you imagine? I can't imagine. But the thing I can't imagine is everything's just going perfect. You won a race last Saturday. Everything's going perfect in your life. And then what? You have I feel like a cold and a flu, and then you start coughing, and then the next time, the next moment, you're dead. It's like how many? That just honestly, Kobe's death freaked me out too. It's like, how many miles that helicopter pilot flew. You know what I mean? And just wrong place, wrong time. And it's like, yeah, it's just like, it's just weird. It's just totally, totally weird. So that makes me, when things like that happen, really makes me, yeah, Sandy. Someone should have reached out to him for a Munical. It's like, but I love that sense of humor. I really, really do. Thank you, Sandy. Lighten it up. I watched a clip just recently about um, what's the redhead late night show host?
Conan
Conan
O'Brien.
O'Brien.
Yeah, and Conan O'Brien, he was talking about, I guess one of his parents died, and then not too long after that, another parent died. And so a lot of comedians were reaching out to him going, "Man, I I really feel sorry that this happened to you." And he said something like, his response was like, it shows him talking about it. And his response back to the guy for saying prayers, I'm sorry, blah, 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 blah. And he said something like, I'm just almost positive that Kimmel had something to do with this. I don't remember what name that he said, but the person that sent
It
him
was
the
Jason
message.
Bateman because Will Arnett was the one on the podcast. So it was Jason Bateman
Oh,
that
it's Jason Bateman.
they were
Thank you,
going
guy.
back. Will Arnett was like saying, I can't believe Jason. I won't ruin the story, but go
No, no,
ahead.
no, no. Please. And so I was going to say I'm not sure it was Jimmy Kimmel. I just reached out a name. But when you watch the interactive on the podcast of how Conan O'Brien, you know, um, just made light out of the situation of all this tragedy happening in his life, and everybody's like, I don't know how to deal with that. Well, everyone mourns different. Everyone mourns different. And so some of you go, I don't know who Kyle Busch is. I don't even know who Kobe Bryant is. That's fine. The only reason I brought up the story for any importance is that I'm very grateful for today. I'm very grateful for each and every one of you. And I want you to have peace and joy, and I want you to do the best that you can while you're here. Me and Arthur were going through all this stuff about health, and I was telling him about fasting and all of this stuff, and I keep coming to my mind where still the number one killer in the world of the most people ever is heart disease. There is absolutely nothing even close. And I never ever forgot that the main reason for heart disease is stress. Is that nuts? And how many people do you know that everything's a struggle for them when it has to do with finances? It's like everything they stress about, worry about. You know what I mean? Their arguments with the people that they love, that they find a singular issue like money and basically stress themselves out. And because I didn't say this to Arthur when we were talking, but you probably could Google or put in AI how many extremely healthy people that actually even sold videotapes and exercise programs and were marathon runners. How many people that are in excellent shape die? It'll blow your mind because it's like some of the people that have been on every talk show out there. Hey, you're the expert about health. Yeah, I'm the expert about health, and then I just died from I almost died from a heart attack. It's like, so I believe that you can be in great physical health, but still be pretty messed up in mental health. And so if anyone wants to know Master's Mind, why I decided to do it, is I love being connected to the highest Wi-Fi I can find So I constantly get the best downloads. So I can constantly keep myself in a great state of joy and peace of mind. And then on top of that, share that with others. So every one of you know that if I get someone's attention, I always tell people all the time, listen, go get this book and read it and get back to me. I still will do that. I just believe that we live in different times. And so what I'm doing now with people is I go, hey, have you ever seen this series? It's free. I found it online for free. It's called The Chosen. Because I gave you one commandment, which is, you guys got to love each other. What was the second commandment? Talk to everybody and tell them the good news that things can be different. So just like the book, The Greatest Miracle in the World, if I can give people a gift that they can now, I wasn't promoting it before you guys because I went, here's the first thought that popped in my head. There's a lot of people that are not going to buy Amazon or whatever streaming service that they need to watch it. But now it's free. So why wouldn't you watch some of it? If you wouldn't, that I did what I was supposed to do. I told you. And then if you had a bunch of thoughts in your minds to say, nah, this is not for me, then it's just not your time. Speak to those that have ears to hear. And I will bring up other stuff as we go through our every Sundays. But the stuff that I'm learning that hearing the stories and then reading about the stories and then watching them from someone that knows how to create a movie that's impactful, a series that's impactful. And the first thing that I did, because I knew I was going to share it with my family, is I went to Rotten Tomatoes and found out that I forget, like it had like a 98% on Rotten Tomatoes or whatever. So a person could not be, in my opinion, a person could, in a nice way, I'm saying this, could be like an Arthur and still get something out of the series. What does that mean? I respect Arthur for his beliefs. I 100% respect that he comes from a place that totally anti-religion, like my son. And it's like there's a good reason why they're anti-religion. They should be. They should be 100% anti-organized religion of any kind. All right? So I'm not going to ask someone to borrow their phone or borrow their laptop. I'm just going to find out how to connect to the Wi-Fi. Are you guys following me? Hey, you want to use my phone and computer? I do not. I want to connect. So I love you, each and every one of you. Thank you so much for dropping by Master's Mind. I thank you, Faith, Scott, Deborah, Melody, Shelley, Jim, Arthur. Thank you so much. It's great talking to you today. Michael and Angela, Sarah, Deborah, Dustin, Corky, Sandy, Coach Bob, my lovely wife, Terry, Matthew, and the hostess with the mostest, Craig Jackman.